There was communion and a reflection. I saw myself there. I felt you there. I smelled God there. The smell of grape juice, the taste of crackers. I heard a song. Whether there is oh peace or no peace, let me know peace. And whether there is oh
Hi, I'm Dave Manwarren, Jean Manwarren's husband of 49 years and 1 day. I want to begin by thanking all the people who have taken the time to help put this memorial together, sing, play music, or just keep us awake. With all of the work that was involved, I could spend another 30 minutes just thanking people. What I don't want to do is forget anyone, and I know I will. So say a little prayer for those of us who've spent hours and numerous boxes of Kleenex in helping to put this together. There were sad tears and happy tears, and now it's time to have you shed some tears. So sit back and pretend that COVID-19 is over, and we would have a chance to sit down with all of Jean's favorites. Jelly Bellies, chocolate licorice from Disneyland, hot chocolate, and of course, ice cream. Jean and my story started when we were both 19. It starts out with me meeting Jean on a blind date and then playing several tense games of tetherball. We started to date while she was in nursing school, so we only had minimum times to see each other. We made it a habit to spend most of the dates going to Baskin and Robbins, and would go through their published 31 flavors until we had to start through the list again. It taught me my first lesson about Jean. Ice cream was one of her main food groups. It also gave us the idea for our wedding. In 1972, we had one of the first ice cream wedding cakes. Our wedding had been extremely hectic, so we thought a houseboat on the Sacramento River sounded relaxing. What I should have done was hire a pilot to steer the boat. No matter how much I tried, I could not anchor the boat or even get close to the dock to tie off. After a leisurely 9 hours stuck out there, we got close enough for me to jump in the water and immediately lose my wedding ring. Enter day 5 of our honeymoon. We didn't last a day in Yosemite before I lost all the traveler's checks. They must have decided to go swimming in the river. Without credit cards and no money, we had to make a forced journey home. But even with all that bad luck, Jean decided to give me one more gift, another wedding ring. For our first anniversary, we decided to go with some friends water skiing on the Colorado River. I'm not sure what I was thinking, but let's just say the second ring also went for a swim. It lasted about 364 days this time. That could have been the end of this story. Dave and Jean give up. I've seen people give up less. I could talk for hours about Jean totaling my first brand new car and watch it go over a cliff. Or the time Jean got tuberculosis at the hospital and was off work for almost a year. Or how about moving to a rental property to save money for the house, only to have the place flood out on our second day there. It destroyed most of our clothing and belongings. We could have considered ourselves jinxed and just given up, but Jean and I always worked together. We faced many challenges over the years, but one thing I learned about Jean over the 51 years is to approach life with a smile, laugh a lot, and look at everything like it's the first time you've seen it. If there is a mistake, don't worry whose fault it is. If you could get the people around you happy again, blame yourself. So the Lord blessed Jean and my lives with Kevin, Michael, touched by an angel, and our dogs. Well, honesty was another one of Jean's big points, so let's be honest. Blue, Cinnamon, Goldie, Littlebug, touched by an angel, and then Kevin and Michael. That seems more like it. Now we can continue on in the journey of Jean Horine Manwarren.
I'm reading this in place of my mother, Nancy. When I think of Dino, I think of the purple and lavender flowers and green ivy on the top of her doorway to her room in our house in La Habra, California. I remember her walking all of the girls down to the library to get books to bring home to read. It was over a mile, and we had to cross a 4-lane road. I remember her making cookies one day when our parents were gone. Carolyn leaned over the hot tray and burnt her stomach. She was crying and had a big blister across her middle. Dino ran over to the neighbors to ask them what to do. The neighbors had medical training and helped patch Carolyn up. I remember lots and lots of butter. Our parents had never left us before, so I am sure that they felt guilty. I remember Dino got stung by a bee at school. It was a big deal. She was allergic. My mom somehow got her to the hospital as we didn't have a second car and my dad was at work. I remember all of my siblings being at home and waiting for our parents to come home. It got darker and darker, but no one turned on the lights. Finally, they came home with Dino. Lights went on, and she was okay. She was safe. I was just relieved that she was okay. Dino and Carolyn were very close. They had matching bathing suits, and Joanne and I had the same striped bathing suit but different color. The 2 blue and green and 2 pink and orange. I visited her once when she was going to nursing school. I remember her working so hard. I was so proud of her. When our mom had lung cancer, which traveled to her brain, Dino was the one that acted as the go-between us and the doctors and nurses. This was a big responsibility, and it fell all on Dino's shoulders. Dino especially tried to be there for all of us after Mom passed away. She helped me go clothes shopping for an agriculture conference so I looked professional. It must have worked, as this is where my husband and I met. She was working and had 2 children, and yet she would volunteer to come and help me with birthday parties for my children, meet me at an agricultural field day, and so many other activities. She would call and check up on me. She was a wonderful listener. Anytime I had a medical question, she was the first person I would call. Many a time a doctor would tell us a diagnosis, and I would hurry home and call Dino to see if it was right. I trusted her to tell or explain something to me so I could understand it. As I got older, I tried to repay her by being there for her as well. We would meet up at Nordstrom to have lunch, and she would insist that I take cookies home for my family. She was always thinking of others. By watching Dino, I observed how great she was at putting other people at ease. She was always nice, friendly, helpful, and sincere. I still try to copy her in trying to help others. I think of her every day, as I am sure so many others do as well. I miss her. And I miss you, Aunt Dino.
This one is called Checkpoint.
Okay. Hi, I'm Ellen Fletcher, and I'm Dave Manwarren's cousin. Dave and I grew up in the same neighborhood, went through high school together. Heck, I've known him all my life, which also means I've known Gene Manwarren a long time as well. I want to tell a couple of stories, and one of them I can tell now because prior I was under the threat of violence not to do so publicly. But first, back in the late 60s, this was before Dave and Gene were married. Dave was going to Cal Poly, had a small apartment in Covina, California, and I stopped by one afternoon to visit. Gene opened the door. I hadn't met Gene prior to this, and so I asked who she was. She looked at me kind of cockeyed and asked, "Well, who are you?" And, our conversation went on a little bit. Well, I asked what her intentions were towards my favorite cousin, and she really sat back on the heels and looked at me kind of odd as to who is this forward crazy person asking this question. But we got through it. She started flipping me junk right back, and I immediately knew that she was the girl for David. She was good looking, smart, great sense of humor, and they've been together ever since. The next story, and this happened a year or two later, I was working in a rather seedy bar in a rundown industrial area in Irwindale, California. It was a topless place. And one Saturday afternoon, Dave and Gene stopped by to visit. This was the first time they've done so. I think more out of curiosity to see what was going on than to visit me. But as I said, this was a bar, not a playground. They had to drink. And so Gene ordered a Harvey Wallbanger. In fact, she had two Harvey Wallbangers. And they were pretty good pours because she was plastered. I found out later on Gene didn't drink prior to this. So it really affected her. But as you know, and as we all love Jane, when she got excited, her voice would sort of pitch up a little bit. And it was pitched up. And it was loud. And she was carrying around a bit, walking around the bar, talking to people at different tables, making a general pain in the butt of herself. We had to corral that action. Now, don't get me wrong. She didn't do anything improper or obscene or anything like that. I mean, this is Jane we're talking about. But she was acting out, and it took a while to get her calmed down. They eventually left and went on to, I think, get a Christmas tree, and that's another story someone else will have to tell. But we've been laughing about this scene ever since. And to this day, I'll never forget it. Fast forward another 50 years, we got together as often as we could over that time period. I always lived in another part of the country, but would visit when we could, and we'd catch up. We'd, tell jokes, talk about the latest escapades on a project. Every time we did get together, even if it was only once a year, it was like we just saw each other the week before. That was the type of relationship. Gene had a big heart, great sense of humor, good to get along with, fantastic family. She's just a person that I've always loved and admire and will surely miss. Gene, rest in peace. We love you.
Hi there, I'm Scott Horine, the older brother of Jean, Joanne, Nancy, and Carolyn. Obviously, being Jean's older brother, I knew her for longer than anyone else, and we had a special relationship. Jean, as you all know, had a very sweet, kind personality. What I'd like to focus on is a unique thing that happened to Jean when she was young, when she was around 4.5, 5. She got stung by a bee, and she had a very allergic reaction to it. This was the time when doctors would come to the house, and by the time that the doctor had arrived, her facial features were so extended that you could hardly even recognize her. He gave her a shot, and then she returned to normal. Well, the prognosis, we had all these allergy tests taken, and the prognosis was that she needed to have a shot every week. So here was this little girl who used to hate going to the doctor and having shots, going to the doctor every week, and it got to the point it was a secondhand thing. Well, she was getting these shots every week for years and years up until her teenage years. And I think she developed a nice relationship with nurses, and she was certainly around hospitals at different times with all the various ailments and injuries that we had as a family. And when she was in high school, she decided to be a candy striper. And so she was working with the nurses. They all took a fondness for her, and they all encouraged her. She wasn't really sure what to do when she got out of high school, and they encouraged her to apply for nursing school. With the grace of God, she got into the USC School of Nursing, which was one of the finest in the country, with a little scholarship. And she started off and she studied as hard as she could. And over the years, as she was going through nursing school, I got to meet some of her friends, some of them better than others. And everybody thought that Jean was just the model student. One of the things that was most amazing to me, always being the oldest brother, was the fact that when I went to see her just before she graduated, I ran into this lady that I had gone to college with at the University of Redlands, and she had graduated and she was just now starting nursing school at USC. And she said, "Scott, what are you doing here?" And I said, "I'm here to see my sister." And she says to me, she goes, "Who's your sister?" And I said, "Jean Horine." She goes, "Jean Horine is your sister?" I said, "Yes." She goes, "Wow, she's really well thought of." Well, another year and a half goes by. Jean starts nursing at LA County Hospital. She did a great job there. Actually, of all the nurses in her class, as far as I know, she was the very first nurse to be promoted, and she was promoted to a shift advisor at the LA County Memorial Hospital, which was not the safest hospital, I might add, and it was plenty busy. But I had fallen into the wine business and was working at a tasting room in Sonoma, California, when one day a young man and his girlfriend came in, and he was talking to another one of my co-workers how he was going to medical school, and this other fellow was going to medical school as well. I asked the fellow where he was going to medical school, and he said USC. And I said, "Oh, well, my sister's going to the USC nursing school." He goes, "What's her name?" I said, "Jean Horine." And he looks at me and he says, "You're Jean Horine's brother?" I had never been addressed like that before. And it was like all of a sudden I was a superstar because I was Jean Horine's brother. And the girlfriend to the guy's going, "Well, she must have been pretty special." He goes, "All the interns wanted to work with Jean. She was the most serious. She knew what to do. And we just loved her." The other guy walked off because he could see he was no longer part of the conversation. But it was the first time I actually had the opportunity to look at Jean in a totally different light. And she ended up staying, working as a nurse for, I believe it was 14 years before she went off to help her husband with his business that was growing. But she had a wonderful reputation as a nurse, and I couldn't be more proud of her.
Hi, my name is Joanne, and I'm one of Jean's 3 sisters. I would like to share 3 stories about growing up with Jean. You all know that Scotty's the oldest, and then came Jean 2 years later, and then me 2 years later, and then Nancy 2 years later, and then along came Carol about 4 years later. Every year when school started, Jean was always asked the same question. "Another Horine? Are are you like your brother Scott? The question was asked from the early first grade all the way through high school, as she attended all the same schools following my brother Scott. But the teachers soon found out that she wasn't like Scott, not even close, as she handled everything with grace and never got into trouble. She was sweet, kind, agreeable, and always helpful. I remember during the summer, my parents taking us to Disneyland, and we were always paired up in twos. Well, not Scott, because he was older. So it was Nancy and me, and Jean and Carol. And Carol was around 5, and so Carol couldn't go on very many of the rides. And so Jean would take her on the horse-drawn buggies, and we would ride the horse-drawn buggy up and down Main Street all afternoon. And she was perfectly happy just taking care of Carol. She wasn't like Scott or Nancy or me, wanting to run off to ride the e-rides, or as a bobsleds and the bumper cars. And probably the story told the most was about us all getting into trouble and being sent to our rooms. We all had our own rooms, and Jean's was at the very end of the hallway. So after my parents confined us to our rooms, then they would go out to dinner. So there was Jean at the end of the hallway, happily and content, playing solitaire. Nancy and I were busy passing notes and looking out our doors to see Jean. And then Carol was younger, and she was really allowed to roam. She wasn't the one that hadn't really gotten into trouble. And there was Scott just being Scott. Anyway, I want to thank you all for attending, and I'm sure you all love and miss my sister.
I listen to the wind of my soul. Where I'll end up, well, I think only God really knows. I sat upon the setting sun, but never, 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 I never wanted water once. No, never, never, never. I listen to my words, but they fall far below. I let my music take me where my heart wants to go. I swim upon the devil's lake, but never, 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 I'll never make the same mistake. No, never, never, never.
Hello, everyone. For those that do not know me, I'm Jean's youngest sister, Carolyn. It's so nice to be able to share my thoughts with you about Jean. I do want to start by thanking Dave, Kevin, Mike, Carmen, Kylie, and all the other people who helped to arrange this celebration of Jean. I know it was very difficult for them to wrangle us all together. My video came in way past the deadline, so thank you so much. When I was putting this together, I immediately started to think about all the stories I had about Jean. all the beautiful memories and funny times that I want to share with all of you. Believe me, there are so many to share. Side note here, if you have the opportunity later today, ask Dave about Jean's annual surprise birthday party. Surprise birthday party. Talk about a funny story. But as I looked at all these stories, I started to notice a common thread through all of them. What I finally realized is that the reason there are so many stories is because at the very essence of Jean, there is the underlying reality that she cared so much about so many people. Her entire life was devoted to the people she loved, the people she knew, and even the random people she came into contact with. She cared about others more than she cared about herself. She gave herself to helping people in every facet of her life. Maybe that was what started her original career as a candy striper and then on into nursing. I mean, she didn't come to nursing because she was so good at science. In fact, she struggled to complete her science courses. But she was so driven by taking care of other people that she was able to complete her nursing degree despite the challenges she faced in the curriculum. Jean really only cared about others and rarely, if ever, was her concerned about herself. Paying attention to herself and her needs just wasn't important to her. You know, for example, all family members had jokes about Jean never having any clothes of her own. And it wasn't that she couldn't afford the clothes. It was just that she did not see them as important in her life. Shopping and buying clothes took too much time away from what she did daily, which was to nurture other people. I would venture to guess that every single one of you on this call at one time or another had Jean come to one of your sports events or open up her house for a party for you or allow you to live at her house or come to one of your kids' games, concerts, plays, ag fair, or some other event. It was never about Jean. It was always about others. But to be clear, Jean did not merely go from one event to another without a care in the world. She managed to show up at events after working all day, maybe all weekend at their company, or working a night shift when she was a nurse. You know, for those of you who don't know our family, it's full of, to put it very lightly, very strong personalities. Over the years, at any given time, one or another of us would not be talking to each other. The only person who was always in communication with all of us was Jean. Because again, Jean approached everything from a perspective of what was good in a person, not what they were lacking. Ask anyone who came into the family, like a boyfriend, a girlfriend, a husband, a wife. They will all tell you that the family member who was most welcoming, who went out of their way to be nice, was Jean. Jean was loyal. If she made a commitment to a person or event, she always followed through. Case in point, you may or may not know that our family had an annual Easter gathering. Through the years, most of us at one time or another didn't attend. Maybe we were fighting with a family member, maybe we were too caught up in work, maybe the flights were expensive, yada, yada. You know all the usual excuses. But not Jean. She never had an excuse. She made it a priority to attend, a commitment that she stood by, no matter what was happening in her life. All that I'm saying may paint a picture of someone who was a pushover, someone who did not have any of their own opinions. Let me tell you, that was not Jean. She had opinions, strong opinions, but she also realized that expressing those at times could lead to hurt feelings and schisms in relationships. So rather than express them, she'd hold them to herself, not to do damage. I know I wished at times that Jean would approach her life with more of a Jean first attitude. I wanted her to care for herself more than she did others. But that just was not Jean. Her sole focus in life was to care for and nurture and delight others. Thanks so much for giving me this time to talk about Jeannie. I miss her so much, and I'm sure all of you do as well.
Hello, I am Michael Manwarren. I am the youngest of my mom's two sons. We have heard many stories about my mom during this memorial, and I will include a couple of little-known ones. Except for the immediate family who knows these, most people never saw this side of her. My mom was a fierce competitor. Every year for Easter, my mom's side of the family would get together to celebrate. It was one of her favorite parts of the year. It did not matter if we were working or on a job site. She always made sure that come Easter time, we had to be wherever we were celebrating. We typically would have different competitions during these, like ping pong, soccer, or even the Easter egg hunt. During such events, she would always either be competing or cheering/yelling on the sidelines. She did the same thing during our normal sports as well. If she won, everything was fine. She was the happiest and friendliest person in the world. However, if she lost, she would be a little more than eager to voice her displeasure. She was a sore loser, but she would try anything to win. She would attempt to get us to pity her by giving us her pouty face, but she'd slam it down our throats to get the win if she could. But she always tried to do everything, even if she couldn't perform like she would want. When I used to do summer golf tournaments, my mom would come to every one of them and walk them with me. She was horrible at golf, but she always tried to help even though she didn't really know anything about it. She was always supporting of us and pushing us to get better. My mom also excelled at many things, but one of my favorites was how much she could eat. When I decided in high school to learn how to cook, thanks to Emerald Lagasse, me and her would be in the kitchen every day after school cooking dinner. It didn't matter what I made, it was always the best thing she ever ate. It helped that my mom could eat a ton of food. We started to learn how to smoke meat because of her. We could get 15 pounds of pork shoulders for pulled pork, but my mom in one sitting could clear off 4 pounds of it. She was a staunch supporter of dessert. There was a family tradition called Awful Awful Day that was never missed. It was also in memory of one of her uncles or her grandfather. I don't remember which one of them right now. All we would have to eat that day would be candy, cake, and ice cream. If it was awful for your health, then that's what you were going to be eating that day. My mom was loving, respectful, compassionate, and thoughtful. We miss her every day. Thank you for being here during this memorial.
So for Jeannie, I decided to climb up to the top of David Hill because this is one of the places that when she visited Oregon, we would take her. What I loved about Jeannie is that she was always a gamer.
Jean, described in 1 or 2 words, endearing. She endeared me.
One word to describe my Aunt Jean was loving.
Courageous.
Charming. Sweet. She was so very sweet.
I couldn't narrow it down to 1 word, but the 2 words that came to mind when I think of Jean are laughter and fun.
Kind. She was the kindest person ever. She was always had a big heart.
Genuine. Genial.
Exuberant.
Kindness. Because I think every single time I saw her, no matter if it was a year had passed, she was always, "Hello, Brian, how are you?"
Her smile, her laughter, how she made everyone feel loved when she was around.
It's friendly, talkative. She was like my second mom, so she was always there for me, supportive. I have a lot of words, I guess.
I'll always think of her amazing hospitality and her amazing beef jerky.
What I'll miss most about Jean is our friendship of 50 years. She and I were best friends. We met in 7th grade, went all the way through high school, giggling and laughing and doing things that young people do.
Jean was my dinner date, my theater date, and my swimming partner.
My favorite thing about my Aunt Jean was the warmth and comfort I felt when I was around her.
She always wanted to go out of her way to help other people and to make sure to brighten your day.
She was very caring and friendly, a loving person.
She was always at all of our events, graduations, baby showers, wedding showers.
She was always there to celebrate. You know, when I graduated college, she was just so excited for me. When I got my first teaching job, she was so excited.
You know, she was at every milestone growing up.
She was at everything, our weddings, our baby showers. She just was always there. She was like a second mom.
When I would go to camp for 5 weeks every year as a little kid, she would always send me a fresh baked batch of those heaven cookies that were chocolate with the powdered sugar on them.
Every Christmas, Jean would send me and my family some homemade candies. It was a little gesture, but to me, it meant that she was still thinking of me.
I loved her holiday socks. She had socks for every holiday and always cracked me up.
My favorite thing about her was her generosity. She was always there for anybody and anything.
Her beautiful smile, her wonderful, welcoming, gracious spirit. She always was so happy, genuinely happy to see people.
Her smile. I loved her smile.
She would laugh. She was full of adventure.
Her friendship with my mom and giving me that example about how important friendship is in our lives and the strong relationships. I remember so many times driving to Chuck E. Cheese and having play dates. I feel like just so Jean and my mom could catch up.
She would see you for the first time in a long time and kind of walk up to you, like inching for a hug with a smile on her face.
She arrived in her Easter bunny outfit at my front door, and that was such a hoot. That's what I mean by endearing.
She was always positive. She never said anything negative. Loved listening to her laugh. She always smiled. She always brought us up and sit it down.
She's an incredibly warm person.
Always just a beautiful, loving, warm, caring person.
You could feel all of the fun radiating off of her and going to you.
And she would always welcome us with a smile. Even if she thought what we were doing was ridiculous, there was always a smile on her face.
She was just such a bright and positive person, and I hope that I can be what she was to me to other people.
All of the memories I have of Aunt Dino, she's smiling, she's laughing, she's making someone else laugh, or she was dancing to the bunny song.
And she just was just a huge part of our life. And even though we are really going to miss her, I'm just so, blessed and feel at peace that she's no longer suffering and hopefully having a great time with my dad up in heaven. So, Jean, we love you.
I love her and I miss her.
I shall miss her very much.
We'll miss a lot about Jean.
Yeah, absolutely.
She was so magical. She was so special. And I think we will all truly miss that spirit.
Because she was a pretty amazing person.
And that was Jean, an earth angel. So sweet, so kind, so generous. I miss you, Jean.
So, Jean, I know this is gonna be messy, but I miss you, and I was lucky to have you come into my life a little over 11 years ago, and I'm thankful that I knew you and your family, and I will miss you very much.
Hi, I'm Kevin. I'm Jean's eldest son of 2, and I think I can speak for both Michael and myself when I say that we were extremely fortunate to have not only a mom with a big heart, but one who was willing to show it in both her actions and her words. She was incredibly caring. Sometimes that caring took the form of worrying. She could do that. Like when we rode our bikes down to the park without telling her, and then she called the cops on us, and they were combing through the neighborhoods and found us, and they were like, "You guys are in trouble." I think her love and care didn't just stop at our immediate family. It spread across our neighbors and our teammates and our friends from church. There were so many people who cared about her so much, and it's because she genuinely put all of them above herself. She made people feel heard and supported, and she was a beacon of enthusiasm for everyone and their plans and their dreams. She would run up and down the sidelines at our sports. She was the unofficial cheerleader, and I can hear her ear-piercing shrieks now. She was also, and I don't think any other speeches are going to touch on this, incredibly goofy. And she was so loved for that, because she was willing to be uncool, and she was willing to not be embarrassed, to just bring fun and joy and just a sense of a good time to any gathering that she touched. My high school friends would sometimes show up unannounced, and instead of asking why they were there, she would just say, "Hey, do you boys want a pot roast?" And they would make fun of me for it, because it's not a thing that can just be whipped up. It's something that takes several hours, and she hadn't started it yet, but she was willing to change her entire schedule just to make our nights better. Yeah. I love you, Mom.
Trying to put 48 years of friendship into 2 or 3 minutes has been a really big challenge to me, primarily because Jean had so many different sides to her, and she changed in many different ways over those 48 years, and yet she didn't stay. She was always the same person. For when we were all single people, to going through the stages of our marriages, of our children being born, finally to being empty nesters, each step of the way, Jean shared with everyone her infectious laughter and her interest in what was going on in everyone's life. She was always up for a new adventure and a new challenge. For us, a lot of it involved around our children, with Chuck E. Cheese parties in the afternoon, which were probably not my favorite, but Terry and Jean got a lot out of those times together, and I'm sure the kids did as well. To when the kids were graduating from high school, from colleges and things like that, Jean was always engaged in everyone's life and knew what was going on. Sharing with our daughters over the past couple weeks has brought things to my attention that I didn't know about Jean and how she interacted with our daughters. It was a real gift for her to be there. But I really got to know Jean better in the later years of her life, when she was working in the business, trying to manage what was going on, very interested in what was going on. She always took a great interest in not only the projects, but in the people that worked for her, as she did in her friendships and all of her lives, people in her lives as well. Jean had this unique way of bringing to attention all the gifts that people had. And she brought that out of us in a loving, caring, gifted way, with her sense of humor, her infectious laughter, and her smile that was always ever present on her. She might sometimes be a little angry with what was going on, but she always overcame that and ended up being a gift to all of us. Jean, of course, being mother, wife, friend, she was all those things to each one of us in a different way, in a different time of our lives. And Jean will always be a part of our lives as we move forward.
There's so much I can't remember, but I still remember you. Our love glows like an ember from the fires when love was new. We raised the kids and had such fun and kept the business going. And now our work is almost done, but the ember still is glowing. So wrap your arms around me when I waken in the night. You and God surround me, and my darkness turns to light. For our love glows like an ember from the fires when love was new. There's so much I can't remember, but I still remember you.
The words of Ecclesiastes remind us, "For everything there is a season and a time for every matter under heaven, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to keep and a time to cast away, a time to be born and a time to die. For everything there is a season and a time and purpose for every matter under heaven." Today is our time to gather and to hold in sacred memory, to honor and to celebrate the life of Jean Michelle Manwarren. Jean was a beloved wife, loving mother, sister, aunt. She was our friend, our faithful sojourner in life. She filled our lives with joy, and she is deeply missed. The poet Emily Dickinson writes these words, "If I can stop one heart from breaking, I shall not live in vain. If I can ease one life the aching, or cool one pain, or help one fainting robin unto his nest again, I shall not live in vain." Jean certainly, absolutely lived a life of meaning. Her days were purposeful, and she fulfilled this poet's words. She eased our pain, cooled the aching of life, helped the faint-hearted, and brought so much joy and laughter into our daily lives. Who can forget her smile and laugh? Jean was able to place others at ease so they felt comfortable within her company. Even after her diagnosis, she did not dwell in depths of despair. Jean was very, very brave. Most often she smiled at the visits of family and friends. She found joy in small accomplishments. Even finding the proper place for each piece of the many puzzles she worked on was a cause for a high five, a smile, a celebration. Jean was one of the most generous people I have ever known. She was a giver in a world that has far too many takers. If she knew someone had a need, Jean would do whatever she could to meet it. She was generous with her time, talents, and most of all, her friendship. Jean and I raised our teenage children together, and then for a time lost close contact. But when word got around that my husband was facing a life-threatening illness, she was one of the first to call and offer help. The subsequent years we spent together doing many activities both with family and with church. She even accepted church leadership roles that she was not altogether comfortable with, because I asked her to, and she knew I needed her. Our faith compels us to be servants in the service of love, justice, and mercy. One of our hymns begins with the words, "Won't you let me be your servant?" Jean was a steadfast servant, and her life's meaning was derived from giving to others. In service, she found true joy. Jean loved her family. She was so proud of you, Kevin and Michael. She had the unconditional love of a mother's heart. Jean enjoyed the life she built with you, Dave, and with the rest of her family and her many, many friends. If we are honest, we know that part of why our grief is so great is because Jean died too young. We had envisioned spending with her the years ahead. We dreamed dreams with her of joys to come. The truth is that it was not good that her illness took her from us so soon. But it is also true that it was very, very good that she lived. We are the fortunate recipients of her goodness. We are the blessed ones who shared joy-filled, purposeful days because we shared them with Jean. The scriptures remind us that life is always being transformed from one degree of glory to another. We see the miracle of this transformation in the beauty of creation. Every time a tulip bulb that looks dried up and lifeless is planted in the ground, what emerges as a beautiful flower come spring. What the cocoon releases is a beautiful emerging butterfly. And every time we witness the miracle of birth and new life, we know we are part of something greater, something quite beyond our imaginations. Jean loved Easter, and Easter is all about new life and new beginnings. Easter is about the transformation of human existence. It is about unforeseen possibilities. We trust that at the ground of all being is God's divine presence, moving through this world and the worlds to come, blowing the spirit wind of life that sustains us all and all those we know and have loved, held forever within the memories of God. St. Paul writes, "I am convinced that neither death nor life, nor angels nor rulers, nor things present nor things to come, nor powers, nor height, nor depth, nor anything else in all creation will be able to separate us from the love of God." And from the Psalms, "The steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. His mercies never come to an end. They are new every morning. Great is God's faithfulness." In these past few years, we had already said goodbye to so much of our dear Jean. I longed for her to be able to lay her burdens down and for her to find peace and rest. And now she has. But always I will remember her joy, her smile, her laughter. And I'm reminded of the book, The Little Prince. In it are these words: in one of the stars I shall be living. In one of them I shall be laughing. And so it will be as if all the stars were laughing when you look at the sky at night. And so we look for Jean in the bright stars shining against a night sky, in the memories of her laugh, her love, and her generous spirit. And today and in all the days to come, may Jean be remembered, and may God be praised in the way we live and in the way we love. Let us pray. Loving and creating God, we give you thanks for Jean Manwarren, this precious one with whom we shared the joys and sorrows of life. We thank you that in you is a home for the universe, that all creation speaks of a circle of life formed by your hand, and that we are forever linked with those we love in your circle of creation. Remind us that the circle is unbroken, that your love binds us together, that in both life and in death, we are yours. We now release to your loving embrace Jean Michelle Manwarren, knowing that in you, she and we are loved from without beginning and without end. Amen.
Come on now, laugh and be happy, and the world will laugh with you. When people see you smiling, they can't help smiling too. When you look out the window to a dark and gloomy day, break out a smile and in a while the gloom will go away. So laugh and be happy with a merry melody. A song will make a hat rack look like a Christmas tree. Get rid of worry in a hurry, chase the blues away. Just laugh and be happy all the live.